All right, what is up, fight fans? NEF 46 Decade of Dominance is officially in the books. It was a huge success, I'd have to say. Ryan Drell here with Greg Williams. We were your cage side commentary team, and this is our NEF 46 post-fight show. Greg, I mean, I don't know about you. I feel like I could speak for you because I think I know what your answer is going to be. But the show was fantastic, top to bottom. So many great fights.
I totally agree. I said from the onset, and you said too, that the matchmaking was great. We had a lot of great matches, and as always, we see something crazy happens, an unexpected turn, and we'll get to that, I'm sure.
Yeah, no doubt. Let's start right with the main event. Aaron Lacy, back after 3.5 years absence outside of the cage, takes on a tough Jerome Mickle. And I mean, we could see just how physically strong Mickle was right from the beginning. I mean, just look at his body type, his physique. The guy is absolutely yoked. So, and I talked to Aaron a little bit. I did an interview with him the other day. He was talking about, making sure he kept a high guard because Jerome's going to come in with those looping hook shots. And, that's his thing. He's got a lot of power. And Aaron did a good job of negating that. Although he did overcome a little bit of adversity. There was that up kick early on. And then he wasn't even sure if it was an eye poke or if it was just a shot that got through, but that clearly affected him. He kept his composure, ultimately gets the round 2 TKO victory. How impressed were you with Aaron Lacy?
I wasn't surprised, but I'm always impressed, so I wasn't surprised. He overcame some adversity, like you said, but Aaron's one of the most poised fighters out there. He's one of the most intelligent fighters out there as well. He knows the game. He's been in it for a while and knows what he's doing. I think the game plan, he had it dialed in right when Jerome Mickle came out. Jerome Mickle, if you watch any of his fights, he usually comes out pretty fast, looking to end the fight quickly with his hands or feet right off the bat. Aaron knew that, weathered a little bit of a storm, and did what he had to do. He had to face some adversity, like you said, but he was able to come up with the victory through perseverance, as always.
Yeah, what I'd really like to see for Aaron next, and maybe I'm wrong here. I don't know if these guys are friends, if they would fight each other, or if they wouldn't fight each other. But the guy that was supposed to be headlining this card, Caleb Hall and Aaron Lacy in a 145-pound main event. Are you kidding me? That matchup right there would be fireworks. I don't know if Matt Peterson and the NEF has thought about that, but I mean, what do you think? That sounds pretty darn good to me.
It's a really interesting fight because they're both so skilled on many levels, and did Aaron beat him once?
I think they fought when they were amateurs. It's been a while though.
Yeah, he didn't have a lot of losses, Caleb, and I think Aaron handed him one of them. So I think it'd be a great matchup. Styles are different, but they're both well-rounded. There's no they're not really lacking in any area, either one of them. And great wrestling and power from Caleb.
Yeah.
Caleb. So.
Well, if Matt Peterson, I'm sure you're going to be watching this at some point. Just ponder that. Think about that for a little bit. I think the NEF fans wouldn't mind to see that one down the line. Let's move to the co-main event, Greg. Carl Langston shocks everyone at the Aura nightclub and finishes Zach Richard 121 of the very first round with an RNC. Look, I've said it before. I've said it again. I don't feel like Langston gets enough respect. His record, he's 1-6, and that's not an accurate representation of how good of a fighter he is. He's fought nothing but studs. He lost the last time out to Zach Richard. Richard, obviously a heavy favorite going into this rematch, and Carl steps in. He didn't have any pressure on him. He goes in there, shocks everyone at the Aura nightclub except himself, and gets this win. I mean, you got to be happy for the guy.
Yeah, I mean, the guys that train with him say he's really good. He's a beast, but we haven't seen that when he goes out there and performs. And he admittedly spoke to us before the fight and said, I'm my own worst enemy. I get in my head and then I don't perform as well as I could. And he took this fight on short notice. I think that helped him. I think that alleviated some of the pressure that he puts on himself. When you can't think about what you're up against and it doesn't fester in your head, then I think you can go out there and make things happen intuitively. And if you have those skills, they'll come out, Carl was probably one of the few people in the in the whole arena that was not surprised. Everybody else was like, what just happened? And it was reminiscent of the Jay Ellis moment, because Carl doesn't have a 98 losses, but he was like, he still had his looking for his victory. So he got it, It
Yeah.
was great.
Well, one thing's for sure, Zach Richard will be back. I mean, I feel borderline bad for the next person who has to step inside of the cage with him, because he's going to have a lot of anger and frustration, I'm sure, to let loose in his third professional fight. So I'm looking forward to seeing him back in there. I always enjoy watching him compete. He's a tough, well-rounded fighter. So looking forward to see what's next for both of these guys. Zach Richard, who is now 1-1 as a pro, and Carl Langston, who climbed to 1-6. Now, Glory Watson and Ali Beth Milleron, wow, what a fight. And, I don't want to, speak out of turn here, or, and maybe I'll catch a little flack, but that's okay. I view Glory Watson as a friend. I'm around her a lot. I go to Young's fairly regularly, and I see her there. I think that she's one of the nicest people on planet Earth. And so, having said that niceness has made me question a little bit if she has that killer instinct to be at the highest of levels. And her goal is the UFC, right? It has to be the UFC. I talked to her. She wants to be the best in the world, right? To be the best in the world, I feel like as a professional mixed martial artist, you need to have a mean streak. You need to have a killer streak. And, like I use George St. Pierre for an example. I think he is like one of the nicest guys that there is, outside of the cage. And for my money, he's the best pound for pound fighter that's ever lived. And when he needed to have that killer streak, he had it. I didn't necessarily see that from Glory in her previous fights until NEF 46. I couldn't have been any happier for her. She looked like a different person in there. She looked like the freaking Terminator or something, and she was out for blood. I feel like she turned a corner in her career. I've been very vocal about that. I think this was the best possible thing for her to take that next step, because I think what this is going to do, Greg, is it's just going to elevate her confidence to another level. She's going to know that she has that switch, that she has that mean streak in her, and she can go in there and bite down on her mouthpiece and hurt her opponents. And that was her best performance that I've seen so far, amateur or pro. What was your takeaway?
Well, two things. You're right. Number one, Ali Beth was a very formidable opponent. There was no question about that. That fighter came in with the skills and the desire to win, and just gave it everything she had. She was a very worthy opponent. And to be honest, it was not a one-sided fight by any stretch. Ali Beth was doing great. Her skills looked amazing. It was such a great fight because they were so skilled. They were so balanced and so fast, and they looked so professional. At one point you said they look very professional. I'm like, yeah, they are professional, but they really look like high-level pros. So kudos to Ali Beth for coming in there 2-0 and, looking to make a name for herself. Glory, like you said, turned a switch, and with 1:25, if you go back and watch, 1:25 to go in the first round, she flipped that switch, and she did it by being herself, because she did it with a smile. It seemed, I watched it again, and it seemed like something came over her where she felt like, this is it. This is the moment. I like, almost like she knew exactly what she had to do. And I'd love to talk to her about it, but there was a switch that flipped, and it wasn't fabricated. It wasn't I'm going to go kill mode and do that. No, she did it with a smile. She smiled and then opened up, and it seemed so freeing and so liberating for her. And I think it was a turning point in her career. And it was so fun to watch because her energy level went, you could see in the beginning of the fight, she was getting comfortable, like you do in a fight. You try to relax and have your skills come out, and she was getting comfortable, but then something just overtook her, and her energy level just like tripled. It was insane.
Well,
so fun to watch.
And I think part of the reason why, I was so impressed with her, and I think what you said really alluded to that, was the level of skill that her opponent had. I mean, Allie is a tough fighter. I mean, you could see it in there. She's well rounded, and I just feel like, for Glory to go in there and do what she did against, I don't know if it's Million or Milleron. I never got that, so I apologize if I'm saying it wrong. I'm just going to call her Allie. But I just feel like that's what makes it so impressive. She didn't do it against some tomato can. Allie is legit. She was 2-0 as a pro going into this one. So really impressive performance for Glory Watson. Can't wait to see what is next for her. Did you have something to add?
Yeah, I just want to add that, that's why you take good fight. That's why you fight good fighters, because they bring out the best in you. And that's what happened here. She brought out the best in Glory Watson, and it took a great fighter to do that. And kudos to Allie Beth. She's a great fighter.
Yeah.
She'll have a career. I bet Allie Beth has a great career in MMA.
I'm sure she will. Both ladies now 2-1 as a pro. Nate Grimard looked really good. UD win over Anthony Vasta. That was both of their professional debuts. And Grimard, it looked like his last fight, fighting for the belt, except the roles were reversed. He looked like a dominant wrestler in there, and he stuck to his game plan and looked really good. I was questioning a little bit his decision after losing the belt to go pro. I thought, he's still super young. Why rush? Maybe get a couple more fights against high level amateurs and then go pro. But I think based on what we saw, maybe he made the right decision to go pro. I mean, when you have Aaron Lacy as your training partner day in and day out, pushing you, it doesn't get a whole lot better than that. So Nate Grimard looked very, very good.
He did. He looked like he did what Billy the Kid Wilson did to him.
Yeah.
A real grinder on Anthony Vasta. And Vasta withstood, I thought that kid was really tough. Again, if Nathan Grimard's going to go pro, I guess it's a good idea to go pro against a young man who's about your age and is going pro for the first time as well. So they matched up really well together. Two good schools, two good fighters. Vasta just got out. He got grinded out the way Billy Wilson did it to Nate. So yeah, I love Nate, and Nathan is a good kid. So I'm really happy he got that win.
Yeah, I echo those sentiments 100%. Muhammad Al-Kanani won his pro debut via round 1 TKO over Chris Rooney. And Rooney didn't like the stoppage. And if I'm going to be honest, I mean, if that was a stoppage for an amateur fight, I could say, okay, I agree. But for a pro, maybe let him hang in there a little bit longer. He didn't look out to me. So I can understand from his point of view why he was so upset that the fight was stopped. But having said that, I mean, Kanani was looking very, very good in there. And I feel like it was just a matter of time before he did get the finish. So maybe the ref was just doing Rooney a good deed and stopping it before he took too much damage. What was your overall takeaway on that stoppage?
On the stoppage, I think what he saw, I looked at it again and I saw that Rooney's arms were out here when he hit the canvas. I think he was definitely out, whether it was flash or he didn't stay out very long. But when Mo got on top of him and started pounding him, his hands were out here. So he was not even protecting his face. And you can go back and watch it. He hit the ground, his hands were up. I think John English gave him a second or two to cover up, and he would probably let it go, but he didn't cover up quick enough, and he doesn't want to see somebody come crashing down with something that's going to do permanent damage. And by all looks, Mo Al-Kanani was going to do some serious damage. He looked mean. I mean, he looked really ready for this fight, really mean. Rooney didn't want to touch gloves, and he said during the fight, "You're like, it might be a mistake, you know. You might want to show some sportsmanship because now you just stirred the hornet's nest." And Mo looked really. I was impressed with how his physique was. So he looked like such a great physique for a fighter. So many weapons. He looked great.
Especially for 155. Are you kidding me? He's like 6'1", 6'2". He's got long arms, a huge reach. So to be his physique at lightweight is incredible. He looks the part to really make it to the highest of levels. I mean, now he's 1-0 as a pro. I'm really intrigued to see what's next for him.
Yeah, I agree. I think you're going to see a couple of these guys getting looked at. Some, you know, if you go 3-0, you get a chance for the Contender Series. You know, you go 3-0, you start getting looked at by some big organizations. So it's good. I'd like to see it. I like to see a few of these guys go on to bigger and better things. I think we're on the precipice of a real flood of high-level fighters going to a high-level show, like the UFC, like Bellator, like Eagle FC.
Yeah. I mean, the talent level in New England is just getting better and better. Let's move to the amateur ranks, Greg. The main event of the amateur card was for the vacant 170-pound title, a title that a guy you know pretty well just vacated to go pro. And of course, talking about Mike Besançon. This fight was won by Mike Murray, a split decision win over Zach Faulkner. And, you know, we were talking about just how close it was going into that 5th round. And I think Mike Murray earned this win. You know, if I'm Zach Faulkner and I'm looking back at this, I think I'm kicking myself for my output and what I didn't do in round 5. He stayed on top of him and he kept the pressure, pressed him against the cage, but he didn't land any significant takedowns or any shots. It was Murray, the one that was more active in that 5th round. Although he had his back pressed against the cage, he was landing the bigger shots in that fight. So I feel like Zach, looking back at that, you know, would maybe go out and do something different in the 5th round. But either way, this is one of those fights that was razor thin, so close. Both of these guys had great moments throughout the 5-round title fight. So Mike Murray gets a split decision win. Did you see it that way?
I saw it. Yeah, I mean, I didn't want to call this fight either way, but you know, it's a classic case of don't leave it to the judges because they might not see what you're doing. And Zach did have a lot of pressure on Mike, but you're right. I talked to some coaches. I don't know if they were his coaches or some other people after the fight, and yeah, they kind of agreed. He just didn't do enough to really get the win. And even though he might have seemed like he dominated by position, he wasn't doing enough to really take the victory home with him. So yeah, it's tough. And what's going to happen now? You think Mike Murray's going to go pro? I think he probably will go pro. Do you think?
You know, I hope he doesn't. I hope he stays and defends this title a couple of times. I mean, he's still so young. And this is the thing that you know, if I was in his shoes and I'm trying to think about, you know, what I want to do for my pro career, you know, I want to do it right. I want to be 100% ready by the time I turn professional. And him being 22, 23 years old, he's got all the time in the world. So if I was him, I would stay amateur. I would take a couple more high-level tough fights against guys like Zachary Faulkner to just test yourself, to get better. And then by the time, you know, you're 25, 26, then go pro and you'd be ready. You'd be filling into that man body of yours, you know? So I would wait. But, you know, who knows? Maybe he has other plans. Either way, really good performance by both guys. They're clearly high level. I wouldn't mind seeing a rematch if the NEF decided to make that happen here in the near future. Let's transition to the 125-pound title. Tyler Smythe gets it done. Round 1 guillotine choke, 237 of the 1st round, beats Ryan Burgess, and he looked pretty darn good in there. I feel like this was the exclamation point that Smythe wanted and needed after that Caleb Austin dog fight. How impressed were you with Tyler?
Very impressed. You know, I think he went after it and got it right away. And I think Ryan made a mistake by trying to climb up the cage. That didn't work out for him. It's hindsight, but, you know, Tyler did what he had to do. He came in and dominated. And Here's another guy who's climbing. Now he's 4-1, and he's taking a fight down in Cage Titans like next week, or I think it's next week, a week from today. So he's going to be fighting. He wants to stay active. Push the limit. Let's see. Let's fight the best. Let's see how good you are. So we'll see. I think he had a dominant performance. Ryan Burgess, I hope he gets back in there and does another couple of fights, you know. But it was fun to watch. It was an interesting choke he had on there.
Yeah, for sure. Ryan Burgess drops to 3-3, and Tyler Smythe improves to 4-1 after this title fight. Definitely wouldn't mind seeing Tyler and Caleb back in there at some point here, maybe before the end of the year. I'm sure the NEF wouldn't mind that either. Move to a couple amateur debuts. You got Mike Jolliker finishing Will Smith in round 1 via arm triangle choke, and Key Baltazar finishing Quinn Poirier in round 2 via RNC. When you look at those two performances, those two wins by Jolliker and Baltazar, what impressed you from those guys?
Just what impresses me a lot about this card is they're so young. Jolliker is 19, maybe, and he was so poised in the cage, fighting with for Smythe Catito's team. And Key Baltazar, same thing. Like, he's a young guy. It's just so great to see these young guys coming in with no cage experience and then perform the way they do. Like, it was just, I'm in awe. And I just think, like I said, I keep saying it, but the level is high. And I think in a few years, what's going on here will translate to a big push from the Northeast into some of the big shows. Not like it. I think Calvin Cater and Rob Font kind of opened the door, and now you're going to see a bunch of fighters come through it.
Yeah, I sure hope so. Well, Mike Jolliker and Key Baltazar both win their amateur debuts, moving to 1-0. Will Smith and Quinn Poirier dropping to 0-1. A couple of big boys were prior to those two AMI fights, and I'm talking about Jack Burke and Nick Legrand. Jack Burke moves to 1-0 with a round 1 TKO finish over Nick Legrand of Young's MMA. And if you like blood, this was the fight for you. Nick Legrand got busted open and was just blood was everywhere. I was worried for my suit coat. I thought I was going to have to go to the dry cleaners because I thought I was just going to be spraying everywhere. Were you impressed by Jack Burke? I mean, both of those guys were huge, big boys. Legrand outweighed Burke by about 20 pounds. And he clearly was looking to finish the fight in the first round, coming forward with a lot of power, but Burke just looked to be the more polished striker to me.
Yeah, definitely. And, was I impressed? Yeah, both of those guys were so tough, very tough guys. Jack Burke, I think, from what I understand, and Mike Bezanson told me this afterwards, that he comes from where I am up here. He comes from the North Country. So then it's no real surprise that he's a tough guy. You got to deal with the harsh winters up here. But what a fun fight to see the big guys go at it with reckless abandon, just throwing it. And Jack Burke coming up with, I think it was a left hook that dropped him really hard and bloodied him up. It was a lot of fun to watch. Everybody, the crowd gets pumped for the big guys, and they delivered.
Yeah, I can't wait to see both of them back in action. Even Legrand, in that losing battle, I mean, I feel like he clearly has a good skill set and he's got a lot of power. So I'm looking forward to seeing him back in action too. Let's move to what you thought could have been the fight of the night here. And Jeff Reynolds gets it done. Round 1 RNC over David McCarty. And this was one of those fights where you couldn't blink. Don't walk away. You don't want to walk away for a second because it could end at any moment. Both of these guys with so much power. How good is Jeff Reynolds?
That was going to be my point. I thought about this when we were coming on, like, how good is Jeff Reynolds? Because David McCarty, I mean, he looked dominant in his first performance. Even this fight, he came out and his hands looked great. He was throwing hard at Jeff. Jeff had to eat a couple of punches, resort to wrestling. He had to bring out his wrestling for this. I think he wanted to stand up and knock him out. He threw they both looked so great. And that's what you asked me is really the question I want to know. How good is Jeff Reynolds? I'm following him from now on. I'm going to be watching. I mean, I don't think there's a limit to how good this guy can be, and nothing against David McCarty. David McCarty had a good fight, but, Reynolds looked like a level higher.
Yeah. I was actually wondering if, that weight cut for McCarty could have affected his ability to be as strong as he normally would be, or, keep his cardio up where he needs it to be against someone as a high level fighter as Jeff Reynolds, because David McCarty is a big boy. And I don't know. I mean, 185, that's a big cut for someone that was walking around at 240 fairly recently. So I'd be interested to know, what he's walking around at these days. I think I saw a post saying that he was like 202 after weigh-ins. But I'd be interested. I'd like to see him at light heavyweight. I feel like 205 would be a good weight class for him. I think that's what he made his debut on, if I'm not mistaken. So
he's just a little short. He's a little shorter for that, I think. He's really stocky. He's going to have a sizable reach disadvantage, I think, at 205, which might be why he's dropping to 185. So maybe get acclimated here. But I hear what you're saying. It's a lot of weight to cut, and your gas tank just runs out quick when you're going that far. On the contrary, Jeff Reynolds looks like a really natural 185er. He looks like he's really made for that weight class. Came in huge, and he did what he had to do.
He looked like a 205er to me. That's just my opinion.
Yeah. Well, that's what pro 185s look like. They look like 205ers. He's like, how did they make that?
Yeah, crazy. Well, can't wait to see both Jeff Reynolds and David McCarty back in the NEF cage whenever that is. Ben Grady beats Brandon Millette Fevens via first round TKO injury. And to be fair to Grady, I feel like that injury was forced by just how dominant he was in there. Yeah. And Fevens, I felt knew it. I think that he knew that he was in trouble in this one with Ben Grady. And if I'm not mistaken, Fevens was fighting at 45 previously. That might be a better option for him, because if guys are going to be as big as Grady is at 55, that might be too big of a size disadvantage for Fevens. Maybe I'm wrong, but what was your takeaway from this one?
Yeah, I think you're dead on. Ben Grady was dominating the fight. He looked awesome. And I think you're right. Brandon, I think, knew it. And that kick, I think he just broke his wrist with a right head kick. He had his hand up, got hit, and it was just like, that's it. I think he broke his wrist or his maybe a forearm bone, maybe not. But man, he was dominant. Ben Grady, watch out for him. Climbs to 3-0 now.
Yeah, he looked really good. I can't wait to see what is next for him. Maybe down the line, he could earn himself a title shot. If performance like that over a tough guy in Fevens, that could warrant a number one contenders fight, or maybe even a title shot at some point soon. So can't wait to see what's next for Ben Grady. And Brandon Fevens, a lot of respect for him. Looking forward to seeing him back in there again next. Cody Kilton of First Class MMA, the man with the epic beard, beats Caleb Kenny via UD in a lightweight bout. Kilton, I felt like had a handle on this fight throughout. I think it was a clear-cut UD win.
Yeah, and I honestly did not think it would go past the first round. I thought it would be a quicker finish, but Caleb Kenny showing a lot of heart by staying in there. But Cody Kilton, dominant performance again. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
All right, we'll move to a welterweight bout. Justin Kangas gets the first one of his career, a split win over John Assam, who falls to 2-4. Really close fight. This was a fun fight. Honestly, if that title fight between Murray and Faulkner wasn't so close and wasn't so exciting, it was such a chess match, this might have been my fight of the night. I thought both of these guys really came to bang. They were in there. They showed a lot of heart. And it was a very close fight. I could have seen it going either way, but I think the right guy won. I think Kangas did enough to get his first win.
Remember that moment when Kangas was just opening? He came in really like wide open, and he was unloading on Hassan, and Hassan clipped him and dropped him.
Yeah.
and then you figured that was over, but then he gets up. I mean, it was a back and forth. Two very, very similar styles. We said that in the pre-fight. Very similar styles. These guys are like the same size almost, and love to throw. So yeah, that was a lot of fun. I enjoyed that fight a lot.
Yeah, happy to see Justin Kangas get his first win. Another guy that has just been fighting studs in there. So Justin Kangas improves to 1-3. John Assam falls to 2-4. Curtis Willett opened the night off. He got the second win of his amateur career at 175 pounds, beating Christopher Smythe in round 3 with the TKO. Quite honestly, I thought he could have potentially got it done a little bit earlier, if I'm not mistaken. He looked pretty good in there, and I felt like it was just a matter of time before ultimately he did get the finish.
Yeah, Curtis was on cloud nine. I went to Buffalo Wild Wings with my crew afterwards, and he joined us at the table to watch the Izzy Adesanya fight. And yeah, he was really happy, and he's really ecstatic about getting this win and showcasing some of his skills. He feels like he's got more skills than he's displayed in the cage. So now he wanted to show everybody, he's not just a one-dimensional fighter. So good for him for getting it done. Yeah, I thought he could have got it done a little sooner, but 2-11 of round 3, yeah, he probably could have got it done a little sooner, but gave him a chance to display his skills, which is what he was looking for.
Yeah, either way, yeah, he gets in there and gets a win. That's all he really, really wanted, was to notch another victory there. What I want to do, Greg, before we sign off here today, is get each of our performances of the night and our fight of the night. I'll kick it off. I'll let you know what I think. My fight of the night, to me, it's easy. It has to be the 170-pound title between Mike Murray and Zach Faulkner. I thought both of those guys really showed high skill levels, very well versed in there, and it was a close fight. So for my money, that was the best fight of the evening. My performances of the night, and there were a lot of people I could mention. Obviously Aaron Lacy got another win. He looked good, finishing a really tough guy in Jerome Mickle. Carl Langston with that RNC, he's someone that comes to mind. But for me, my performances of the night, Glory Watson with the turning point of her career, in my humble opinion, with that RNC in round 2 over Ali Milliron. And then my other performance of the night is the guy that you tried to tell me about leading into this one, and that's Jeff Reynolds with the RNC over David McCarty. And that's just because, like, David McCarty is just massive, and he's so strong. You just know he is. All you do is look at him. And so that's a tough puzzle to crack, and he was able to get him out of there in the first round. That's highly impressive to me.
I totally agree. And you stole my performance of the night with Jeff Reynolds, because it's not so much that the performance was a guillotine. It was how he handled himself in the cage. I even like how he handled himself afterwards, how he spoke when he spoke. So my performance of the night goes to Jeff Reynolds. That's what I would say against a tough David McCarty. I was really pumped for that fight, and it delivered. And then my fight of the night, I got to give it to the Glory Watson fight. I was on the edge. Fight of the night for me is the fight where you're on the edge of your chair, like really picking up everything you can, soaking everything in for every little thing. And I was so intense on that fight. I was even yelling at Kevin McDonald at the end, like, Kevin, she's out, she's tapping with her feet. I mean, that was, to me, was the fight of the night. That was had so much drama in from start to finish, and a high skill level, which I really love.
Yeah. Well, either way you look at it, I'm sure people are going to have differing opinions as to who was the performance of the night or who was the fight of the night. But one thing's for sure, NEF 46 delivered. It was a fantastic card. They'll be back at the end of April. I believe it's April 30th in Auburn, the Lewiston, Auburn area, for NEF 47. We'll be back as your commentary team. And now we just wait as the matchups are announced, and we start to formulate a roster of who's fighting who at NEF 47. But can't wait. Looking forward to it as always. A great time down at NEF 46 at the Ord Nightclub with you, my friend, and looking forward to doing it again soon.
Yeah, same here. Thanks to Matt and Nick for putting this on. 10 years of NEF 10 years of excitement, 10 years of all of these great fights, never knowing how it's going to play out. Always something exciting happening on every card, excellent. And I can't wait to be there for the next one, April 30th with you, Ryan.
Looking forward to it, my friend. For Greg Williams, I'm Ryan Jarrell. We will see you guys next time.